The evening sky turned gray as the forest whispered with the sound of moving leaves. Two small children walked slowly along a narrow, muddy trail. Their names were Ryan and Mira, twin brother and sister no older than 10. Each carried a small bag made of rough cloth. Their shoes were torn, their faces pale, and their eyes showed sadness mixed with quiet strength. They had no place to call home anymore. Their small house at the edge of the village was gone after a terrible fire. The villagers said it was their fault, though no one had seen them near the flames. People had always looked at them with cold eyes, as if the twins were something strange or unwanted. Some said they brought bad luck because they often wandered into the forest alone and spoke little to others. When their house burned, no one came to help. The twins stood in the ashes the next morning, surrounded by the ruins of their small life. Ryan had found a piece of their mother's scarf in the dirt and folded it gently into his bag. Mira took a small wooden whistle that their father had carved for her before he disappeared. With nothing else left, they turned their backs to the village and walked toward the only place they knew well, the forest. The forest had always felt like a friend to them. It was wild and quiet but never cruel. The air there was cool, filled with the smell of wet soil and pine trees. Birds sang above them, and sometimes small animals peeked through the bushes. Ryan walked in front, holding a rough map he had drawn during their old hikes. Mira followed, holding a small lantern that gave warm orange light. They did not speak much because they did not need to. They understood each other through glances and small gestures. They walked for hours. The trail curved through thick trees, crossed over a small wooden bridge, and led to an open space where they could see the far hills covered in mist. Ryan stopped and looked around. "We should rest," he said quietly. Mira nodded, sitting on a flat rock beside the stream that ran through the clearing. She dipped her hands in the cold water and drank slowly. Ryan filled an empty bottle, then took out a small loaf of bread from his bag. They ate in silence while listening to the forest sounds. When the sun began to sink, golden light filled the woods. Shadows stretched across the ground and the air turned cooler. They continued walking, following the path deeper inside the forest. Soon Mira noticed something ahead. A thin line of smoke rose through the trees. Her heart started to beat faster. "Ryan, look," she said. Ryan stared ahead. "Maybe someone is there. Maybe a traveler," he said. They followed the smoke carefully, stepping over roots and fallen branches. The smell of burnt wood grew stronger. After a few minutes, they reached a small clearing. There, hidden between tall trees, stood an old wooden cabin. Its walls were dark with age, and ivy climbed up the sides. The door hung slightly open, moving gently with the wind. The windows were dusty, and part of the roof had collapsed near one corner. Still, the place looked safe from rain and wild animals. Mira looked at her brother. "Do you think someone lives here?" Ryan shook his head. "It looks empty. Maybe no one has come here for years." They walked closer. The wooden steps creaked as they climbed them. Ryan pushed the door and it opened with a loud sound. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old wood. The room was small, with a broken chair, a wooden table, and a stone fireplace filled with ashes. Spider webs hung from the ceiling, yet to the twins it felt like shelter. "This can be our new home," Mira said softly. Ryan walked around, checking each corner. "We can clean it. We can fix the roof. It is better than sleeping outside." They began their work right away. Mira found an old broom and started sweeping the floor. Ryan gathered broken wood pieces and used them to cover the gaps in the walls. As night fell, the twins collected dry sticks and lit a small fire inside the fireplace. Warm light filled the cabin, chasing away the darkness. They sat close to the fire, their faces glowing orange in the light. The warmth felt like a gentle hug after many cold days. Mira smiled a little for the first time. "It feels safe here," she said. Ryan nodded. "Yes, and the forest will protect us. We will stay quiet and no one will find us." He looked at the wooden ceiling above, thinking about how far they had come. They had no parents, no friends, and no one who cared, yet here they were, sitting together with a small fire and hope. He knew they would survive as long as they stayed together. Outside, the forest was calm. The trees swayed slowly, and the moonlight fell through the leaves, painting silver lines on the ground. Somewhere far away, an owl called, and the sound echoed softly. The twins lay down on the wooden floor beside the fireplace. Mira wrapped herself in a blanket she carried, while Ryan kept watch for a while, listening to the night. He thought he heard something faint beyond the trees, like a whisper or a sigh. It was not the wind, but it vanished before he could be sure. When he finally lay down, he whispered, We will be fine, Mira. We have each other. Mira, half asleep, murmured, "Yes, we will be fine." The fire burned slowly, casting shadows on the walls. In those shadows, something almost moved, as if the forest itself was watching the twins with quiet curiosity. The cabin had been empty for many years, and now it had new life again. The forest, silent and old, seemed to breathe with them, listening to their soft dreams. That night was the first peaceful night the twins had in many months. The world outside might have hated them, but deep inside the woods they finally found a place that accepted them. They did not yet know that the cabin carried its own secrets. Something in the darkness beyond the trees had already begun to stir, watching their every move, waiting to see what the little twins would do next. Morning sunlight slipped through the broken window and touched Ryan's face. He opened his eyes slowly and looked around. The small cabin was quiet except for the sound of birds outside. Mira was still asleep beside the fireplace, her head resting on her arm. The fire had turned into cold ashes and the air felt chilly. Ryan got up and stretched his arms. He walked outside to breathe the fresh forest air. Mist still floated between the trees and the smell of damp soil filled the morning air. He could hear water running nearby and decided to follow the sound. He found a small stream just behind the cabin. The water was clear, shining like glass. Ryan filled his bottle and washed his face. When he returned, Mira was awake and smiling faintly. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," Ryan replied. "We have clean water now. We should look for food." They both stepped out of the cabin and began exploring the area. Birds flew over their heads and sunlight filtered through the trees, making the forest glow softly. The twins picked wild berries and mushrooms that they recognized from their earlier hikes. Ryan even found a few wild roots buried under the soil, good enough to boil for soup. After gathering what they could, they returned to the cabin. Ryan built a small fire outside while Mira cleaned the food. They cooked the roots and mushrooms in a tin pot they had found in the cabin's kitchen. The smell of warm soup filled the air, making the place feel like a home. While they ate, Mira looked at the old walls around them. "Do you think someone used to live here?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Maybe. The furniture is old, but someone must have built this place long ago. Maybe a hunter or a traveler." Mira walked to the far corner of the room where a large wooden chest stood under the window. It was covered in dust and had a rusty lock. She brushed it clean with her hand. "Look, Ryan, what is this?" Ryan came closer. "A chest. Maybe there are tools inside. Let's see if we can open it." The lock was weak with age. Ryan took a flat piece of metal from the broken fireplace and pressed it into the lock. With a few pushes, the lock broke open. When they lifted the lid, they were surprised. Inside were old blankets, a cracked lantern, a few notebooks, and a small wooden box with carvings on it. Mira opened one of the notebooks. The pages were yellow and filled with neat handwriting. "It looks like a diary," she said. She began to read softly. The diary spoke about a man who once lived in the cabin many years ago. He wrote about hunting, storms, and strange lights he saw in the forest at night. The last few pages were torn, and the writing stopped suddenly. Ryan listened carefully. "He saw strange lights. Maybe he saw travelers," he said. Mira shook her head. "He said the lights moved without sound. He said they followed him when he walked outside." Ryan frowned. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he imagined things. Still, something about those words made both of them uneasy. Mira closed the notebook and placed it back inside. "We should not worry. The forest is peaceful," she said, trying to smile. They spent the rest of the morning cleaning the cabin more deeply. Ryan fixed the roof using fallen branches and leaves, while Mira swept the dust from every corner. They found an old bed frame and covered it with soft moss and blankets. When they were done, the cabin looked brighter and more welcoming. By afternoon, the twins decided to explore farther around the cabin. They followed the small path behind the trees where sunlight fell like golden rain. As they walked, they found old footprints on the muddy ground. The prints looked dry but not ancient. Ryan bent down and touched them. "These are not ours," he said. Mira looked around nervously. "Do you think someone else lives here?" "I am not sure," he replied. "Maybe someone passed by long ago." They followed the footprints a little farther until they reached a fallen tree. Beyond it, they saw something strange. There were stones placed in a circle covered in moss with small carvings on them. It looked like an old fire pit or maybe a campsite. In the middle of the stones lay a small wooden carving shaped like a bird. Mira picked it up gently. "It is pretty," she said. Ryan looked closer. It looks like the same pattern as the carvings on that wooden box we found in the chest. Mira held the carving in her hand for a moment, then placed it in her bag. They decided to return to the cabin before sunset. As they walked back, the forest grew quieter. Even the birds stopped singing. A strange feeling passed over them, as if the air itself was watching. When they reached the cabin, the door was slightly open. Ryan was sure he had closed it when they left. He exchanged a look with Mira and stepped forward carefully. Inside, everything looked the same except for one thing. The diary that had been inside the chest was now lying open on the table. Mira gasped softly. "Did you touch this before we left?" Ryan shook his head. "No, I closed the chest. They looked around, but no one was there." The fire was out, and the air inside the cabin felt colder than before. Ryan closed the door firmly and placed a heavy chair against it. That night, the twins ate quietly. The sound of the wind outside felt stronger. The trees rustled and the cabin creaked. Mira could not sleep, so she sat up and stared at the wooden box they had found earlier. She opened it slowly. Inside lay a small stone pendant tied with a thin rope. The pendant had the same bird shape carved into it. She showed it to Ryan. "It matches the carving we found outside." Ryan took it and turned it over in his hands. On the back there were tiny letters carved in old writing. Neither of them could read what it said. "Maybe it is something old from the man who lived here," Ryan said. "It might be a good luck charm." Mira smiled faintly. "Then we should keep it with us. Maybe it will protect us." Ryan nodded and hung the pendant on a nail beside the fireplace. The fire's light reflected off the smooth stone, making it shine softly. The twins lay down again. Mira closed her eyes, but Ryan stayed awake for a while, thinking about the diary, the footprints, and the strange carvings. He listened carefully to every sound outside. At first he heard only the wind, then the soft hoot of an owl. But soon he thought he heard something else, a faint humming sound coming from the forest. He went to the window and looked out. Between the trees he saw a flicker of light, small and distant. It moved slowly, almost like someone holding a lantern. Ryan blinked and looked again, but the light was gone. He rubbed his eyes and stepped back from the window. "Maybe I am tired," he whispered to himself. He lay beside Mira and finally closed his eyes. The forest outside remained quiet, but somewhere deep in the dark the same faint light flickered again, moving closer toward the cabin. The next morning the twins woke to sunlight filtering through the trees. The forest was calm and birds chirped cheerfully. Mira stretched her arms and yawned. "Do you think we are really safe here?" she asked. Ryan shook his head. "We have never been safer. The forest is our friend. No one will find us here." After breakfast, they decided to explore the forest more carefully. Ryan carried a small backpack with water and food, while Mira held the lantern from the cabin. They followed a trail that led to a hill they had seen from the cabin clearing. The hill was covered with wildflowers, small shrubs, and tall grass that swayed in the wind. As they climbed, Ryan noticed animal tracks on the ground. "Look, Mira, deer came this way," he said. The tracks led to a small clearing at the top of the hill. The view from there was breathtaking. They could see the cabin far below, hidden among the trees, and beyond it the forest stretched endlessly in every direction. Mira picked a bright yellow flower and held it carefully. "It is so beautiful here," she said softly. "I wish everyone could see this," Ryan smiled. "This place is our secret. It belongs only to us for now." They rested for a while and ate some berries they had gathered. Suddenly, Ryan noticed movement in the distance. A figure appeared between the trees, carrying something in their hands. He squinted, trying to see clearly. The figure was small, wearing a hooded cloak. "Who is that?" Mira whispered, holding Ryan's hand tightly. Ryan shook his head. "I do not know. Maybe a traveler." The figure walked slowly toward the twins. Ryan felt both nervous and curious. "Let's go back to the cabin," he suggested. But before they could turn, the figure stopped. A soft voice called, "Hello, children." Ryan and Mira froze. They had never heard anyone speak so kindly outside the forest. The voice was gentle and warm, without anger or fear. "Who are you?" Ryan asked, stepping forward cautiously. The figure lowered the hood and revealed a young girl not older than 12. Her hair was dark and braided, and her eyes shone like the forest after rain. She smiled at them. "My name is Lena. I live nearby in the woods. I saw your cabin from a distance. Are you alone here?" Mira nodded slowly. "Yes, we have nowhere else to go." We stay in this cabin now. Lena's eyes softened. It is good that you found this place. It is old, but it is safe. The forest protects those who respect it. Ryan looked at Mira, then back at Lena. Do you live in the forest all the time? He asked. Lena nodded. I live with my grandmother. We know many secrets of the woods. Animals, plants, even the old paths. The forest has many stories, and some are hidden. Mira tilted her head. Hidden stories? What do you mean? Lena smiled. Some lights move in the forest at night. Some stones have magic. Some trees can remember who passed by. You may have already seen some of these things. Ryan thought about the flickering light he saw near the cabin last night. He did not tell Lena yet. Mira, noticing his expression, squeezed his hand. Come with me, Lena said suddenly. I want to show you something. The twins followed her carefully through the trees. The forest seemed quieter than before, and the sunlight created patterns on the ground. Lena led them to a narrow path that curved around a hill. Soon they reached a small pond hidden behind tall reeds. The water was clear, reflecting the sky and trees perfectly. This is the mirror pond, Lena said. It is very old. The water can show things from far away if you look carefully. Ryan bent down and looked into the water. At first he saw only his own reflection. Then he noticed movement below the surface. Shadows of fish swam, creating shapes that seemed almost like small animals of light. Mira gasped softly. It is beautiful, Lena nodded. The forest gives many gifts to those who respect it, but it also tests you. There are shadows that watch those who do not belong, and lights that guide those who are brave. Ryan remembered the strange carvings, the diary, and the flickering light near their cabin. Could it all be connected to this forest? He felt a shiver of excitement and fear. Lena crouched beside them. I want to help you. Living alone is hard, especially when the world outside is not kind. I can teach you how to find food, water, and safe paths. The forest can become your friend if you learn its secrets. Mira looked at Ryan. Do you think we can trust her? She asked. Ryan nodded slowly. Yes, she seems honest. And we have nothing else right now. For the rest of the day, Lena showed them how to find edible plants where wild berries grew, and how to follow animal tracks without disturbing the animals. She even showed them a small hidden cave near the pond where dry wood and stones could be found. The twins were amazed at how much they could learn from Lena. She seemed to know every part of the forest, every tree and every stone. Ryan realized that living here with her guidance could make their life easier and safer. As evening came, Lena walked them back to the cabin. The sun was low, painting the forest in shades of gold and orange. You should rest now, she said. Tomorrow I will show you more. The forest has more to teach, but you need to be patient. Ryan and Mira thanked her. We are happy to meet you, Mira said softly. Lena smiled and waved. I will come back tomorrow. Sleep well, little hikers. After she disappeared into the forest, the twins entered their cabin. Ryan hung the small bird pendant beside the fireplace again. He thought about Lena's words in the mirror pond. Could the forest really protect them? Could it also teach them? That night the cabin felt different. Not just safe, but alive. The air smelled fresher and even the shadows seemed gentle. Ryan and Mira lay down, talking quietly about what they had learned. Suddenly a soft flicker of light appeared outside the window. This time both twins saw it clearly. It danced between the trees, small and warm like a tiny fire. It did not scare them. Instead, it seemed to invite them to follow. Ryan whispered to Mira, Do you think it is one of the forest lights Lena told us about? Mira nodded slowly. Yes, I think it is friendly. They watched the light until it disappeared into the distance. Then, feeling tired but safe, they closed their eyes. For the first time in a long while, they felt hope. The forest was not only sheltering them but also guiding them. The old cabin had become more than a home. It had become the beginning of a new life for the little hiker twins, a life filled with secrets, wonders, and friends they had never imagined. Outside, the forest whispered softly. The trees swayed as if approving the new arrivals. Somewhere in the dark, unseen eyes watched the cabin, but tonight there was no fear, only quiet acceptance and curiosity. The twins were no longer alone. The next morning, sunlight poured into the cabin, warming the wooden floor. Mira woke first and looked out of the window. The forest outside was alive with birds and small animals moving among the trees. She felt a strange excitement and ran to wake Ryan. Ryan, wake up. Lena said she will show us something today. she said, her eyes shining with curiosity. Ryan yawned and stretched. I am awake. Let's get ready. We will need energy to explore more of the forest. After a small breakfast of roots and berries, the twins packed a few things in their bags, including the lantern, the wooden bird carving, and the small stone pendant. They left the cabin quietly and followed the narrow path Lena had shown them yesterday. Soon, Lena appeared from behind a tree. She smiled warmly. Good morning, little hikers. Today the forest will test your courage. You must be careful but also brave. Are you ready? Ryan nodded. We are ready. Mira held his hand tightly. We will do our best. Lena led them deeper into the forest. The path became steeper and narrower, with roots and vines crossing their way. The air was cooler and sunlight only reached them in small golden patches. Birds sang overhead, but the twins felt a quiet tension in the forest. After walking for some time, Lena stopped near a fallen log. She pointed to a small hollow beneath it. There is a hidden path here. Only those who pay attention can see it. The forest watches closely. Follow me carefully. Ryan bent down and looked inside the hollow. A narrow trail led downward between thick roots and moss-covered rocks. Mira hesitated. It looks dark and scary, she whispered. Lena placed her hand on Mira's shoulder. Sometimes the forest asks you to face your fears. You must trust yourselves and each other. The path is safe if you move carefully. The twins followed Lena into the hollow. Their steps were slow and every sound echoed among the roots and stones. After a few minutes, they reached a small underground space with a stream running through it. The water was clear and cool. Tiny lights flickered above the stream, moving like small fireflies, but brighter. Those are the forest lights, Lena said. They appear only to those who are brave and honest. They will guide you, but you must not panic. Follow their movement and listen to the forest. Mira watched the lights in wonder. They are beautiful, she whispered. Ryan nodded. Yes, but we must be careful. Lena said the forest tests you. Maybe there is a challenge ahead. They followed the flickering lights along the stream. The path led them through twisted roots, over mossy stones, and under low-hanging branches. At one point, the ground became slippery with wet moss. Mira almost fell, but Ryan caught her hand. Thank you, she said softly. You are always careful, but we have to watch together, Ryan replied. After a long walk, they arrived at a small clearing surrounded by tall trees. In the center, there was an ancient stone circle. The stones were covered in carvings similar to the wooden bird they had found earlier. A soft glow came from the carvings, as if the stones themselves were alive. Lena stepped forward. This is the circle of the forest. It is very old. Those who enter with courage will learn the forest's secrets. Those who enter with fear may get lost. You must both step inside together and listen. Ryan and Mira exchanged a glance. They held hands and stepped inside the circle. The moment their feet touched the ground, they felt a gentle vibration through their bodies. The forest seemed to breathe around them. Suddenly, the lights above the stream appeared inside the circle. They moved around the twins, forming patterns in the air. Each pattern seemed to show images. Animals running, rivers flowing, trees growing, and birds flying. The twins watched in awe. This is amazing, Mira whispered. It is like the forest is showing us its life. Yes, Ryan said quietly. We are part of it now. We can understand it if we pay attention. Lena knelt beside them. The forest communicates with those who listen. It is alive and remembers everyone who respects it. You have shown respect by surviving alone and by caring for each other. That is why it welcomes you. Suddenly, the forest lights formed a small path leading out of the circle. Ryan looked at Lena. Where does it go? It leads to a hidden part of the forest, she said. A place where the rarest plants grow and where the animals are not afraid of humans. You will see things here that very few have seen. The twins followed the path. Along the way, they saw flowers with colors they had never seen before. Mushrooms shaped like tiny lanterns and small animals that stared at them without fear. The forest seemed magical, almost like a dream. After walking for some time, they reached a small hill. From the top, they could see their cabin far below. The trees around the hill glowed softly in the evening light. Mira took a deep breath. I cannot believe this place exists. It is more beautiful than anywhere I have ever been. Ryan smiled. And we are lucky to call it home. Lena was right. The forest is protecting us. As the sun began to set, the twins and Lena started their journey back to the cabin. The forest lights followed them, flickering softly until they reached the circle of stones again. The moment they stepped out, the lights disappeared into the trees, leaving a soft glow in the distance. At the cabin, Ryan and Mira began to prepare for the night. They gathered dry wood, cleaned the fireplace, and hung the small stone pendant near the window. Mira placed the wooden bird carving on the table. Lena stayed outside until the sun fully disappeared. "Remember," she said, "the forest will always guide you if you are brave and kind. Trust each other and trust the forest." Ryan and Mira nodded. "We will," they said together. That night, the twins lay beside the fireplace. The cabin felt warmer than ever. The soft wind outside carried the scent of flowers and pine. The shadows on the walls danced gently in the firelight. Mira whispered, "Do you think the forest will always be like this?" Ryan looked at the small, flickering light near the window. "I think it will. We have to respect it, and it will protect us. We are not alone anymore." As they closed their eyes, a soft glow moved outside the cabin, hiding behind the trees. The forest had accepted them, but it was also watching carefully. It wanted to see how the twins would grow, how they would face the challenges ahead, and whether they would honor its secrets. For the first time since they had left the village, the twins felt hope and excitement for the future. They had found a home, a friend in Lena, and a magical forest that held mysteries and wonders. They were no longer abandoned. They were no longer hated. They were beginning a new life, and the forest itself seemed ready to guide them through every challenge and every discovery that lay ahead. The morning sun peeked through the trees and painted golden stripes across the cabin floor. Ryan and Mira woke feeling rested and excited. Today was special. Lena had promised to show them the heart of the forest, a place even more magical than the mirror pond or the circle of stones. After a simple breakfast of berries and roots, they packed their bags carefully. Ryan put the small bird carving in his pocket, while Mira tied the stone pendant around her neck. The forest felt alive, filled with soft sounds of birds, rustling leaves, and distant streams. Lena appeared at the edge of the clearing with a bright smile. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Yes," Ryan said firmly. "We are ready to see the heart of the forest." The twins followed Lena through winding paths. The forest seemed denser today. Moss hung from the trees like green curtains, and sunlight filtered in delicate beams. Flowers of every shape and color bloomed along the path. Mira reached out to touch a bright blue flower. "It smells amazing," she whispered. Lena led them to a hidden stream. The water sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting every color of the forest around it. "This stream is special," Lena said. "It carries stories of every creature that passes by. Listen carefully and you may hear the voices of the forest." Ryan knelt by the stream and dipped his hands into the water. He could feel a gentle energy flowing through his fingers. Mira did the same and smiled. "It feels like the forest is welcoming us," she said. They followed the stream until they reached a tall hill. The path was steep, but the twins climbed carefully. At the top they saw a clearing surrounded by enormous trees, their trunks wide and covered with ancient carvings. The sunlight fell in a perfect circle, illuminating the ground. "This is the heart of the forest," Lena said softly. "Very few humans have ever seen it. This place has been protected for centuries. The trees here can sense your thoughts and your intentions." Mira gasped in awe. "It is beautiful. It feels alive." Ryan looked around. "Everything here is bigger and older than anything I have ever seen." Lena smiled. "The forest trusts you because you have shown courage, patience, and kindness. You respect each other, and you respect the woods. That is why you are here." The twins walked slowly among the trees. Each step made the grass underfoot sway gently, as if welcoming them. Tiny creatures peeked from behind roots and bushes. Birds with bright feathers landed near them unafraid. A gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying scents of flowers and fresh soil. In the center of the clearing there was a small stone platform with intricate carvings. Lena placed her hands on it. "This platform is a gift of the forest. It can give wisdom, courage, and guidance to those who are pure of heart. Touch it and listen." Ryan and Mira knelt beside her. They placed their hands on the platform. A soft warmth spread through their fingers, rising up into their arms and filling their hearts. Images appeared in their minds. Paths through the forest, hidden fruit trees, streams full of fish, and places where animals rested safely. Mira looked at Ryan. "It is showing us everything. It is teaching us how to survive here and help the forest." Ryan nodded. "We can use this knowledge to stay safe and to care for the creatures and plants around us." After a long while, Lena guided them back down the hill. The sun was beginning to set, and the forest glowed in golden and orange colors. The twins felt stronger, braver, and more connected to the woods than ever before. When they returned to the cabin, they started preparing for the night. Mira swept the floor and Ryan arranged the firewood. Lena stayed nearby, watching quietly, then vanished among the trees, promising to return in the morning. That night, Ryan and Mira sat beside the fire. The cabin felt warm and alive. Mira held the bird carving in her hand while Ryan looked at the stone pendant glowing softly in the firelight. "We have come so far," Mira said, "from being abandoned to finding this place, and now we have the forest as our friend." Ryan nodded. "Yes, we are not alone anymore. Lena is our friend, and the forest will always protect us. We have a home and a purpose now." As they lay down to sleep, the small flickering lights appeared outside the window again. This time the twins did not feel fear. They watched as the lights danced among the trees, moving like playful spirits. Mira whispered, "They are happy we are here." Ryan smiled. "Yes, they know we belong now." Over the next days, the twins began to settle into their new life. Ryan learned how to gather water safely from streams and store it. Mira learned how to find edible plants and herbs. They repaired the cabin together, making it stronger and more comfortable. Lena returned frequently, teaching them more about the forest. She showed them hidden caves, safe trails, and places where rare fruits grew. The twins grew confident and skilled, exploring the forest carefully while always respecting its rules. One day, while walking near the mirror pond, Ryan spotted something shining in the water. It was another small bird carving, similar to the one they had found in the cabin. Mira picked it up and examined it. "The forest left this for us," she said. "It is a gift," Ryan nodded. "It is a sign that we are part of it now. The forest is alive and it trusts us." Time passed and the twins grew stronger, braver, and wiser. They no longer felt abandoned or hated. The villagers in the distant town did not matter anymore. The forest, the cabin, Lena, and each other were all they needed. At night, the cabin glowed softly from the fire and the lantern. Outside, the forest whispered, carrying the twins' laughter and whispers among the trees. The flickering lights moved gently, guiding paths, protecting them, and watching over their new home. Ryan looked at Mira one evening and said, "We have a new life here. We are never alone again." Mira smiled and hugged her brother. "Yes, we belong to each other and the forest. This is our home." From that night onward, the twins lived happily in the cabin, learning, exploring, and growing with the forest as their friend and protector. They faced challenges bravely, discovered secrets of the woods, and shared quiet moments of joy and wonder. The forest had accepted them, the cabin had become a true home, and the twins had finally found the peace, safety, and love they had been searching for. They were no longer abandoned. They were no longer hated. They had a life filled with friendship, adventure, and endless possibilities. The flickering lights of the forest glowed softly outside the cabin that night. Ryan and Mira slept peacefully, dreaming of new adventures guided by the forest, protected by its secrets and surrounded by a home they had earned through courage, patience, and love. The forest, quiet and ancient, watched over them with approval, knowing that these little hikers had found their place among the trees and streams, and that they would thrive in the magical world that had embraced them fully.